check-in. Now, some of the things that are running into administration-wise, we'll talk about it, is getting our pictures into the discussion board as embedded images as opposed to attached. So this is how this goes real quick. It's convoluted, but we have these three little dots, right? And we come down to this plus right here. We click that and we go insert local files. And the reason I'm asking you to embed or insert your image is because you as peers will interact with each other on your photographs, and you need to be able to do that quickly. If you have to open a file that's an attachment, you're going to skim right through it. That's just how we do when it comes down to information. So insert local file, here we go. I'm going to turn around. Here's a file that I have. I pop it in there. Files in, and I post, I submit. What it not is an attachment. So that means when I come and I open it, I see it. It is not attached. Super important. Makes everything run a little bit smoother. Some of us are having that issue. That's okay, and we're here to work through it. So the other thing I want you to do, and if you have questions, we can come back to that and revisit. So even in the sense, if it's not working for you, just rewind and go watch it again. It's going to help in the long run. I will be coming in and asking you to actually look at each other's work and begin to comment on it. It's a way to kind of create a sense of feedback for each other that is beyond my voice. It's very important when you're making imagery, any type of art, is to look at it with others as opposed to just looking at it yourself, because you're all going to see different things. And it's a benefit that you have when you're studying art as opposed to just working in your studio by yourself. So coming in to look at some of the course material that we have this week, I'm going to come back and start to prime you throughout this whole course about composition. When it comes down to it, it's all about composition. It's king. So here we go. I popped in a few extra resources for you for this week to continue to think about that, especially as our other assignments come up. So here's a casual short vid about how painters set up composition. You can guide customers along the path. And you can watch that on multi-screen or multi-speed. It makes it a little bit more digestible. Watch that. What they're looking for is texture, diagonals aligned, considering color, thinking about the narrative of objects that are going into their image. It really is a visual aesthetic. Now, when we come down to still life photographers, I want you to show you kind of what the general thing usually you see. Now, this is Fine Art America. It's a publication. And you get this stuff that's kind of, it's very flat. It's something where there's a determined point of focus that's not really hitting that rule of third. Right? It's kind of almost, there's a simplicity to that, and that works. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a different way of seeing, and usually you see this with designers, and I am a designer, and I'm a photographer, and I'm a painter as well as a sculptor. So when it comes down to this stuff, you're really going to see how artists see differently based on the genre that they practice. Keep that in mind, because when it comes down to it, do you want to look like everyone else, or do you want to have a breadth of visual knowledge that you can use to create images that are going to make you stand apart? So if we come in here, I want you to scroll and I want you to take it in and see, ask yourself, what is happening compositionally here, right? Is it visually interesting, or is it something where they actually start to blend together and look the same? Consider that. Now I have another resource for you, and it's a photographer that's working off of 19th or Dutch still life painters from way back in the day. You can see the complexity of these imageries. There's a lot going on, right? And this may not be your aesthetic, and that's absolutely okay. But I want you to think how subtle and how well thought out these images actually are, these painters are doing. Now, if we look at the idea of having a shape of a triangle, this large triangle, that's a composition. Composition almost like formula. Sometimes we have things that become very circular in nature, right? Or we have things that become like a pyramid. Or we have things to go back into the idea of a triangle. We also can do weird stuff like this, where kind of objects pop off on the edge and you see that little moment of tension that's happening. It almost makes the object come alive. If we think about the idea of an intersection, if I had a line that drove down here and I had a line that drove over here, That's a way to handle how you're orchestrating information in the rectangle, which is always the picture plane. And you will hear this in painter's terms as figure, right, an object, and as ground, the background. So figure ground relationships that sit within the picture plane, the bounding box in graphic design. As we come into here, I want to come back and look at this. So we have the triangle. Now look at this. Think about this. If this didn't have the transparency, right, would it become too much of a visual stumping block? I don't know what that is. Would it become too much of a visual interruption? Would it become too heavy? That's what I'm asking visually. How minute that detail is. Now, obviously, our brain says yes when we take a glass and we put it on an angle. Will it start to have more of a transparency? Yes or no, right? Yes, there's liquid in here. It makes it a little bit harder to see. But even that is intentional, that it's not fully rendered, that it's a little more transparent than it would be in reality, so that it isn't so clunky when we come in through here and we're filling out this triangle. Think about that when you choose objects to put together in a still life as a photographer, right? Is that the right glass that you're putting in there for the composition? Is it the right color? Does it become too heavy? We are going to get into still life, but I'm priming you in a way, this is kind of cool. I'm priming you in a way for that right now, and to think about it, how it relates to your compositions as a whole. So just to recap on what's going on this week, shortly, you're going to go in and you're going to look at how to get a subject in focus. This is someone who does a training program and mobile phone photography, and it's a way to kind of get your hands on with what's going on in an iPhone that you can use for focusing. If you have any questions, let me know. Between different weeks, I may pop in just to kind of give you a review of where we are in relationship to the work I've seen. Something else that I'd like you to be aware of is that when you're putting your links in through your assignments, you can't include a link in a Word document, right? Usually we're used to doing a Word document for an upload for the Blackboard submission thing. When you put a Word document in there, yes, it will work for if you have written content, and that's fine, and I can view that no problem, but it doesn't work when you just have to show me a link. So some of the stuff I've seen come through is you've made a Word document, some of us, and we've put our link into the Word document, and then we've uploaded the Word document. I can't get in there and get to your link. The link has to be in the body copy, that body, the text submission, not the comments. I get submissions for links and comments. That little box on the side says comments. I can't get to you through there. It's not a direct link. If let's continue to upload, and we'll see if we are still repeating that. And I will come back and show you physically on the screen. I am not doing that because technically I'm not supposed to go into a gradebook and show you that information. It's not fair to each other. So we'll see how it goes from there. And I'll catch you next week.